We're just going to do a quick introduction. My name is Erica Rideau. I am a study abroad program manager in our study abroad office, and I work with the LAS programs, both undergraduate and graduate.
My name is Martha McGivern. I'm the Director of Study Abroad.
All right, and I'm Nick Ketcherubis. I'm a faculty in the School of Public Service and also have led and helped with several study abroads over the years.
Awesome, thank you so much. And our student, if you want to take a minute to unmute yourself and just introduce yourself quickly, since it's so far just us.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of dropping off a big package.
No worries. Multitasking.
I really am. But yeah, so now I had a couple questions in regards to obviously studying abroad. I looked at a couple of the DePaul programs, but I specifically was looking to do a study abroad in Lithuania, just because that's where I'm from. And I know there's a lot of really cool opportunities out there. So I guess my big question for you would be, at the end of all of your presentations, what I should be looking at if I want to go the route of choosing my own study abroad outside of DePaul.
Awesome, thank you so much. And can you pronounce your first name for us? I don't want to get that wrong.
It's Agla.
Agla.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Agla, can you tell us what program you're in?
Yeah, I'm doing the full-time MBA right now.
The full-time MBA.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Alrighty. We will just keep going with our program, but we will get to your questions, Agla. We're just going to give like a brief overview of how study abroad typically works. We have short-term programs that are usually anywhere between a week to 10 days to a few weeks. Sometimes we call these our short-term programs. We also have term-long programs that are maybe more of the traditional kind of studying for a quarter or a semester or even a year. And these are available for graduate students, but they're a little bit trickier, but not impossible, definitely with some planning and preparation in advance and close work with your advisor. But just want to put that out there that it is available, a little bit trickier. We offer programming during short-term programming during all of the break periods. So that would be after Thanksgiving, over the December break, also during spring break, and then also in the summer. And then if it was a term-long program, this would be taking place, of course, either in the fall or in the winter or spring, or throughout the entire year if it's a year-long program. And you mentioned that you're an MBA student. It's possible for students to participate in most of our programs if there aren't any, sort of course requisites. So it's not like because you're an MBA student, you can only do, those programs. That's helpful if, for your course of study, but it's not a required thing. And in terms of credits for short-term programs, for graduate students, a lot of our short-term programs are 8 credits, but usually programs that are designed just for graduate students, students would get 4 credits. Now, our short-term programs that are 8 credits that are often offered for undergrad and graduate students, students have the option to take the 4 credits or 8 credits. 9 times out of 10, though, our graduate students are only taking the 4 credits. Sometimes it does work out with students who are in that college. It may work for them if they work something out with the faculty, but often it's 4 credits. And Agla, at any point, stop us if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about.
Will do, thank you.
No problem. And scholarships, yes, we have them. If you're familiar with our webpage, we have a scholarships and financial aid page. We give out hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships each year, so the money is available. And there we also have some links to scholarships that are available outside of DePaul, but from our office, we give out quite a bit of scholarship money. And the scholarship application is part of the application to study abroad for the DePaul money. So it's not like you have to do anything separate or fill out any additional paperwork to be able to qualify for those. Alrighty, we'll go to the next slide. Unless Marty, you have anything to add there? Okay, awesome. Keep going.
Okay, hi there. So I want to just step back one sec. So if you're a full-time MBA student, you have kind of a few different options. This session is focusing on options within graduate students in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. You may be able to participate in those classes. It would just be a matter of figuring out how they apply to your degree. And there are a few particularly within the School of Public Service that we're going to talk about later that may, depending on what you're focusing on in your MBA. I do want you to know that there are also graduate and undergraduate combined level programs in the School of Business. There's a session this week for those, so you'll be able to catch the recording afterward, and we can certainly advise you. And then I know the other option that you're talking about is doing a program outside of DePaul. I can say that is allowed. We have a number of students who do that every year. Most of them are undergraduate students, but we have a graduate student every year or two who does do that. You need at first to make sure that there's an institution that you want to go to that's accredited, and then on top of that, it's a matter of identifying courses that would transfer toward your degree requirements at DePaul, and we have a process for doing that. As a graduate student, your program advisors would be really involved in kind of coming up with what are those equivalents and substitutions. So looking at kind of some of these, more general questions, the best time to study abroad, as a graduate student, it's sort of when it works for you. You need to be aware if you have any sequencing within your program for sure that you maintain the sequencing as that would be necessary. Otherwise, my colleague Erica already mentioned kind of the different times of year that DePaul offers those options, so you would really be eligible for any of those. In terms of the process, if you'd apply for a DePaul study abroad program, one of these that we're going to talk about in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences or in the business school, regardless, we have 3 application cycles a year. Those dates are November 1st and February 1st and May 1st. And you're basically applying for 2 quarters, one quarter ahead of the classwork that you would be taking. So November 1st for a winter course and spring break travel, and February 1st for spring course and summer travel, and May 1st for a fall course and December travel. If you want to do something outside of DePaul, those deadlines are May 1st for the summer or following academic year, and they are October 15th for a winter-spring program. Those deadlines are much later, but a lot has to happen in order for you to have a complete application. We need basically to identify that a program will work for you and have the courses, et cetera. We can talk about that more. Limits in participation in credits. There are, as far as I understand your program, there are not limits on the credits or how much you can do via study abroad. If that is a DePaul program, you obviously have to make sure that each of the courses that you would take in that program would apply to your degree in specific ways. We'll talk in a minute about the Liberal Arts and Social Sciences program. That would be kind of a substitution, my guess is probably into an elective in your MBA. And if you do something within your college, it's going to count as International Business 750. That's a standard course code. If you go outside of DePaul, you're going to be transferring credits in, and in that case, yes, there's going to be probably some limits, and we're going to need to work with your program to see what those are and what they would be willing to accept. I'm going to put in the chat my contact information in a minute. I happen to be the advisor that works for students doing programs outside of DePaul. So if you really want to pursue that, we can talk about that offline after this meeting. I'll turn it back over to my colleagues here.
Thanks so much, Marty. And moving to the next slide, we'll be turning this over to Professor Nick Kaczarubis.
Okay, so obviously I teach in the School of Public Service, so I'm mostly familiar with the programs we offer. I'm not saying that those are the only ones available, but our programs are DePaul-related programs that are a short-term study abroad type of arrangement, and that's mainly because our students are working full-time while they go to school, and so usually a semester or quarter-long program isn't necessarily viable for them. But to take a week and to travel over abroad, or sometimes generally over a week, depending on the program, is more feasible. So we have a variety of programs that we offer, and although they're School of Public Service focused, I know at least in particularly my program and the Brussels program that Joe Schwiedemann runs, we certainly open it up to students who can apply from other colleges if there's an interest there. I run the Northern Ireland program, which we generally host. It's usually a spring quarter course, and then we usually travel the first or second week of the summer. There is, I mentioned, a Brussels program, which focuses on the EU. And I should say my program in Northern Ireland looks at peace and conflict resolution in Northern Ireland. We're sitting in Belfast. We're sort of the hub of the troubles sort of erupted. And now with the sort of the Brexit issues, there's a lot of really interesting things to look at there. The EU program, or the Brussels program, looks at the EU and looks at sort of post-war Europe, but then also looks at sort of topics related to the functioning of EU and NATO as well. My colleague Joe Schwiedemann runs that. That's a winter quarter class, and the travel for that is generally over spring break. And then in the School of Public Service, we have an alternating scenario for the fall quarter with a after the fall quarter sort of winter break study abroad with India, alternating some years with Tanzania. And those focus on more NGO and international related organizations. So those are the topics that we have available in the School of Public Service. I'm sure Marty or Erica can point to other programs for graduate students around. But generally what happens, the way we do it when you hit the ground is we do not coordinate airfare usually, and that's purposely designed so that way you as a student have the opportunity to extend your trip if you want, particularly like in our Northern Ireland trip. Some students like to either before or after go do some other touring in Europe, and that allows them to extend that if they want to. And so we tell you sort of where to be and when, and give you all the information on how to get there. And then basically the program fee that you pay as part of a study abroad program kind of covers you from the moment that you're supposed to be at our program to the moment you need to leave, including your hotels, your bus fares or train fares or anything else that goes on, with the exception that sometimes there are some meals that are on your own. But at least in the Northern Ireland program, we cover breakfast is covered at the hotel. We have most of the lunches covered, and then we have several of the dinners that are group dinners. And those group meals can be handled one of two ways. Sometimes we formally go out to a restaurant and all as a group sort of order, and that gives us time to create community and things like that. The lunches, sometimes because at least in Belfast, there are a lot of cafes sort of in the city center. And so we will, as part of your program fee, you already pay this, but we give you sort of the local currency so that way you can just go buy something, a sandwich real quick, and then kind of meet us back on the bus so we can go to our next meeting. but typically, there's a variety of things that happen. Obviously, we coordinate meetings with relevant stakeholders to do with your topics. Obviously, me with Northern Ireland, we'll do a lot of meetings with different groups of individuals who are working to get past the troubles, but yet from different perspectives: the Irish perspective, the British perspective, and that's a lot of it. We do some unique visits to government agencies and government buildings where we wouldn't normally get to go without sort of a group presentation. But then we also do some quote unquote fun things as well. You know, we take the bus and we go up to visit the Giant's Causeway and the Bushmills Distillery, which are sort of museum type of things. Other study abroads will incorporate those, and generally that's all included in the cost, and we pay for those. We as the faculty take care of that when you get there. So other things, I should say, academics before and after. Generally, the way our programs run is you meet 2 to 3 times during that quarter that your class, your quote unquote class is. So like, again, with my spring quarter class, there are several readings that you have to do, and the class will meet about 3 times before we actually travel. And there is a sort of a pre-paper that's due before you go. And then obviously the main piece of the class is that in-country experience. And then afterward, you usually have about a month to write a post paper. And we usually do some sort of discussion or meeting. Sometimes it's more virtual, depending on the situation, about a month or so after, to kind of discuss the outcome and your experiences in the program. So that's kind of how we do that. Now, because ours cross quarters, it basically means that at the end of the spring quarter, because you haven't traveled yet and turned in your final paper, we give you sort of a research grade because you're still doing the course. And then once you submit your final paper, we go ahead and put in that final grade. I think they're great experiences. I've had the opportunity to lead the Northern Ireland program for several years, and I think it's great. Prior to that, we had a Dublin program, which I taught in. We used to have a Panama program, which I helped co-lead. I've been able to staff the Brussels program with Professor Schwederman. And here's what I would say is for any student thinking about it, is to do it. Because I know of no student that's gone on any of the experience and said, gosh, I wish I didn't do it. I know it's sometimes hard to coordinate. I know it's sometimes financially difficult, but yet they become such a centerpiece to your education and just an exposure of an opportunity to build community with other students, a chance to see things and learn in a different way, and yet to be in another culture. And again, it's just a great opportunity for our students. So with that, I'll sort of go back to Erica and say, if there's anything I didn't cover, I'd be happy to take a couple minutes or maybe answer any questions. I know maybe this is more specific to these kind of programs, but perhaps if there's other ideas as well, I can try to help.
Great, thanks so much, Nick. I don't think there was really anything that you missed. You really gave a good overview of how programs typically work. Agla, let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, and only because Engla, I have to step out in a few minutes. So if there are a question from a faculty member, if you have anything, please feel free to ask now. Otherwise, if I do pop out, I certainly don't want to miss that opportunity.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay, great. Nick, thanks so much for joining us. I know you've got to scoot out to get to class. And if Agla has any questions that may come up for you later, we're going to give the contact information at the end so she can reach out. So, great. All right. Awesome. Okay, so I will move on to the next slide. Alumni perspective. We weren't able to have any alums join us today, but we did want to make sure that you were aware if you ever want to sort of hear from another student about their experience on a program or even connect with a student. We do try to make that available to you. This screenshot here is a screenshot of our past student experiences tab under we're just using this India program. It's called India's Identities. And the program page will have tabs for an overview of the program. The next tab will have academics, and that will have the faculty's contact information, the class that they teach, as well as their contact information. The third tab over will have the travel details. Like Nick mentioned, some programs, there's a group flight included, other programs, there's not, and students are able to make their own arrangements. That sort of information will be listed here. The next tab over will be cost and scholarships, where you'll have a little bit more detailed information about how much the program costs, what's included, what's not. We give a little bit of a breakdown of, for example, like Nick mentioned, on his program, well, actually on all of our short-term programs, breakfast is included daily, and then it also will detail, okay, it'll be this many lunches or dinners and etc. And then on the last tab, which is the point of this slide, is past students' experiences. At the end of each program, we survey students and we get information about, what was helpful to them, things that they think that other students should know. And so we list those tips and bits of information on these on our program pages. And we also will have email and names for students who are happy to talk to you about their experience. And if you have any questions for them about, how our program went, anything at all. And some of our pages won't have this information. We're still in the process of gathering some of the data for some of our newer programs. But if you do want to be connected to a student who's participated on a program that's previously run, definitely let us know, and we can try to find someone for you to talk to, even though there may not be someone listed yet. Alrighty. Any questions from you about anything that we've discussed so far? Yeah, sure.
Yes. So I did the Study Abroad 101 meeting. I think it was on Monday, and it wasn't covered in depth, but maybe either of you might know a little bit more about it. In terms of doing a study abroad and an internship, I know it was mentioned, is that something that's actually possible and organized through the school, or is that something that you have to look into doing yourself if you wanted to do an internship while doing the study abroad?
I can answer that one. So you want, like, just to be clear, you would want to do an internship as part of your study abroad program, correct?
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
what the gentleman that was leading the
Yeah.
101 mentioned. I think he did both, but again, I wasn't really entirely sure if that was just him looking to, basically, if you could address either
Absolutely.
of those, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. So the short answer is yes, and the longer answer is there's a few ways that this can happen. DePaul offers a few programs where an internship is either a requirement or an option. Those are all, like when Erica was explaining, term-long programs, so traditional length, usually semester-long programs. So you would be away for a full fall quarter, or probably a combination of the winter and spring quarters combined. Now, most of those programs are designed for undergraduates. From study abroad's end, we would allow participation from a graduate student. And particularly within some of those internships, it could be really great to have a graduate student, someone with a little bit more experience and skills. We would just need to work closely with your advisors in the College of Business to make sure that the type of credit that we can offer would be applicable to your degree progress. So it may be a matter of if they have like an internship course code that could be applied for something. So we would have to work that out for you on an individual basis. In the other types of programs that we mentioned, kind of the programs that Nick was talking about, and that I mentioned really quickly, programs in the business school, those are all short-term programs, and the total length of travel is between 1 and 3 weeks. Internships are not a part of those programs. There's just not the length of time, and it's just a different model where the group is going and doing, maybe it's a bunch of company visits or some of the activities that Nick spoke about. And then I would say the last thing to think about is a new option that we have that's called virtual international internships. This is something we rolled out this summer as the pandemic was starting to affect students' plans for international travel and for internships as well. So these are 6-week internships with a company in one of 10 international cities. A course is required for it. And similarly, right now we have it articulated as an undergraduate course. We're planning more long-term to reach out to some of the graduate departments and see if they would like to consider it and count it differently. That's something that you could do from anywhere. You could do that from home. Or I suppose if you were in the middle of a study abroad program, you could do there somewhere else. But there is a course required that goes along with that. I guess the last thing to think of, if you do something independent like this, like in Lithuania, for example, in that case, it would be your responsibility to find the internship. People are happy to share contacts, but it wouldn't be part of the formal program in any way. Does that answer your question?
Okay. It does. Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions while we've got you here?
No, I think that's about it on my end.
Great.
Had to unmute. Okay, here is our contact information. My email is listed here. Nick's email is there as well.